All right, guys, Traversal ENT in the building, guys. Back with another one. Guys, listen up. Let me tell you lot something, yeah? Do you know what Manny Pacquiao, Errol Spence Jr., and Floyd Mayweather all have in common? All three of these fighters have one thing in common, right? Right? They got this one thing in common. I've noticed that about these three fighters. And it's not something that they were taught. It's just their genetics, all right? Their genetics has given them all three the same thing, which is what? These fighters have what I would call unbelievable engine. All right? They have an unbelievable engine. Okay? Errol Spence has got a relentless, unbelievable engine. He doesn't really get tired. All right? Floyd Money Mayweather had an unbelievable engine. He'd never missed a step. He would fight in the same gear almost all his fights. Even when he was at the later stages of his career, approaching what they call when father time takes over, he still had a pretty unbelievable engine. Manny Pacquiao today, in boxing terms, is an old man in boxing. But he still has a decent engine that is still carrying him today that he can fight young lions. Pacquiao in his prime, he had an unbelievable engine. That's why he's still able to fight today, because the genetics of these individuals is very high when it comes to their stamina, when it comes to their fitness levels, all right? Now, Pacquiao is significantly older than Spence. So although Pacquiao's got fantastic genetics for his age, he is still a senior citizen compared to Errol Spence. So the engine levels are not going to be equal. If it was a prime Manny Pacquiao, it's completely equal. But Pacquiao is a senior. So the engine levels are not going to be equal, okay? Now, that is one thing they all have in common, that they were all in their prime. All these three fighters had unbelievable engine. And when you have a great engine, it can win you fights, all right? That's a fact. What is the thing to look out for in this fight with Errol Spence and Manny Pacquiao? What is the thing to look out for? I'm going to make this a series because there's a few things I want to talk about when it comes to this fight, right? What is the thing to look for in this fight with Manny Pacquiao against Errol Spence? Guys, for me, the way I predict this fight is very easy. It comes down to this. When Pacquiao starts to get tired. Once Pacquiao starts to tire, the fight will start to change. Okay? It all comes down to that. Both men are going to come in the ring, and even if you get the best of Errol Spence against the best of Manny Pacquiao from round 1 to round 5, Pacquiao will always dominate Errol Spence, right? It doesn't matter when they fight. From round 1 to round 5, Pacquiao will dominate those rounds against Errol Spence. Both fighters at their best, Pacquiao will definitely come out on top. Even today's Manny Pacquiao, if you go from round 1 to round 4, I say Pacquiao will dominate Errol Spence. Even today's Manny Pacquiao. Why? Let me tell you. Because Pacquiao will give Spence angles that Spence is not used to fighting in. Spence has never, ever, ever gotten in the ring with a fighter like Manny Pacquiao. Never. Has Manny Pacquiao faced someone like Errol Spence? Yes. Has Errol Spence faced a Manny Pacquiao? No. So Spence is going to get different looks in this fight. Pacquiao's going to give him angles. Pacquiao's going to set traps. And Pacquiao's got a left hand. Even today, even though that left hand might not be as deadly as it was in Pacquiao's prime, that left hand today is powerful enough to drop Errol Spence. It's powerful enough to gain his respect. It's powerful enough to keep him away from Pacquiao in the early rounds. All right? Is it powerful enough to knock out Spence cold? I'm not sure. I don't think so. But I know it's strong enough to put him on the back, drop him. Spence will get back up, but he will be dropped if he's landed on by that punch. So Pacquiao has all the advantages at the start of the fight. All the advantages. The problem is, because of Pacquiao's age, he will not be able to keep up those gears throughout the whole fight. It's impossible. He's not a young man in boxing. So once the clock goes tick-tock and Pacquiao's energy levels drops a little bit, he's not going to go from 100% to 20%, but he will go from 100% to 70%. And guess what, guys? That is all Errol Spence needs. to start dominating. That is all Errol Spence needs to start dominating. He needs Pacquiao to drop a little bit in terms of his effort, in terms of his output, in terms of his energy levels. Once that drop happens, this fight becomes dangerous for Pacquiao. That's the truth. So it's all about when Pacquiao's energy levels are going to drop. So if I'm Manny Pacquiao and I'm working Manny Pacquiao's corner, my priority would be to try and make sure Pacquiao is able to fight at 100% for as long as possible in the fight. If Pacquiao can fight at 90 to 100% from round 1 to round 7, then Pacquiao's going to win this fight on points. He's definitely going to win on points. But Pacquiao has to be able to keep his energy levels above 85%, 90%, up to round 6, really. He needs to be able to last up to round 6 with that type of energy. He can start fading afterwards, but up to round 6, he needs to be able to last. Let's focus on Spence a little bit here. Spence has got high energy, but Spence will find it very difficult to struggle to keep up with Pacquiao's tricks and Pacquiao's veteran moves and Pacquiao's angles, Pacquiao's speed, and Pacquiao's left hand is going to keep Spence at a distance. All right, Spence is not going to be trying to close the gap, punch up, do the body work early in the fight. It's not going to happen. Pacquiao is not a stationary target for Spence to do that to. But once Pacquiao drops in energy levels, Pacquiao's going to need to recuperate. Pacquiao's going to need to recharge. Errol Spence is not going to let you recharge. When you're tired, Spence will increase his input. And that's how Spence gets people out of there. Because you're tired, you need to get a breather. When you're tired, Errol Spence comes on even harder. And then he works the body. You don't have enough energy to be able to recuperate air, oxygen. You can't recharge those lactic acids that's in your muscles. You get even more tired than you were before. And you're not even throwing as much. For an old man, that puts him in danger zone, right? So Spence is dangerous in this fight, yes. For me, really, because of Pacquiao's age. Does Spence have the power to knock Manny Pacquiao out? No, not to the face. I don't think Spence will knock out Pacquiao to the face. Pacquiao's got a very good jaw. I don't think Errol Spence will knock Pacquiao out to the face. Can Spence stop Pacquiao to the body? It depends on Pacquiao's energy levels. He potentially can. Yes, he potentially can. But it really does depend on Pacquiao's energy levels, guys. Is Errol Spence the same fighter he was before the car crash? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You can tell by his muscle twitch, his movements. If you analyze Spence's movements and his muscle twitching and his reaction, he's still solid. But if he was 100% before the car crash, in terms of capability, able-bodiedness, today, Errol Spence is I would say he's about, in my honest opinion, I'd say he's 85%. If he was 100 before, he's 85% today. Now, it's a little drop. It's not a big enough drop for him to lose fights from now on. He can still beat a lot of guys. But drops like that could be the difference in a fight against someone like a Terence Crawford, for example. A drop like that could be the difference if you're fighting someone like a Floyd, for example. And a drop like that could be the difference in a fight like a Manny Pacquiao, for example. So, yeah, it's a dangerous fight. It's a fight that I'm absolutely looking forward to. We're going to see what both men are going to bring. But I know one thing for sure, and I know two things for certain. Someone is going to get dropped in this fight, and I honestly believe Errol Spence is going to hit the canvas in this fight. I think Spence probably could hit the canvas twice. That doesn't mean he's going to lose, but he could hit the canvas twice in this fight, especially in the early rounds, right? Especially in the early rounds. I remember Errol Spence had problems with Kell Brook. When Kell Brook was giving him angles, when Kell Brook was out jabbing him, Kell Brook was giving him angles. Kell Brook fights in angles, right? Especially back then. Pacquiao is the master at fighting in angles. Errol Spence had problems against Kell Brook. Kell Brook was landing on Errol Spence. If Pacquiao lands like that on Spence, Spence is going to feel the shots a lot more. Now, how is Spence going to handle those shots post-car crash? When you get hit very heavy post a car crash, he might not realize it, but his subconscious will bring him back to that impact. Now, I say impact. He fell out of the car. I tell you what, him coming out of the car before I mean, of course it is. If he would stayed in the car when the car rolled, he would have been dead today. But him being flung out of the car before the car had impact, it actually really saved him in more ways than one. It saved him in terms of his life, but it also saved him in terms of his boxing because he won't have that psychological scar of an impact. Because if he was in a crash, then you have a fight a year down the line and someone hits you, the shock will bring you right back to that impact. But he doesn't know what that feels like because he was ejected from the car. Interesting, interesting. We'll see what happens. 50-50 fight, guys. 50-50 fight. And the reason for that is simply because of Pacquiao's age. How long can he last on top gear? This is what it comes down to. But the fight hype, I'll be making more video, guys. Let me know who you lot think wins. What is your prediction? I think it's a hard fight to call. I think I can never count Manny Pacquiao out. It's a very hard fight to call. It's a 50-50 fight. It's a very hard fight to call. I can't pick a winner in this fight. I actually can't, because if Pacquiao drops Spence twice and he can survive up until the 6th round, then Pacquiao will win on points. But if Pacquiao does not drop Spence and he runs out of energy after round 6, Spence could win on points. So I can't call the fight. Traversal ENT signing out, guys. I'll be back with some more. Peace out.